Thanks, Ricky, and thanks to the team from the Newark Advertiser that have put these wonderful awards together. Good evening, everybody. My name's Steff Wright, and for some reason they put me on the stage this evening to do the keynote speech. So I'm very pleased to have your ear for the next 15 minutes. So where did I start my career? I started it in Newark. I started at the Magnus School. I went on to the Newark College. I did an electrical mechanical engineering course for a year at the Newark College. And then I started my first business, which was as a DJ, traveling around all the local village halls and hotels, and including the Robin Hood Hotel, which has just been renovated in Newark, and putting on parties for people's 18th, 21st and weddings. And a lot of you probably remember some of the older ones, those Dr. Gusto days. So that was my start in business, and it was a great way to learn business. I then went back to college and I did a building diploma, and whilst I was at college I bought an old van and then started doing job in building work. So that was my next sort of step into business, and as the building job got bigger and bigger and I was busier and busier, then I decided that the disco days needed to be put behind me, and moved forward and bought my first property. Which was a old building opposite the King's Head in Collingham, for those of you that know the village. And I converted that into 3 flats. Sold those, kept 1 flat, then moved on, bought another property, bought an old fallen down farmhouse out near Retford and converted that. And so gradually learnt my trade, really. Learnt the physical skills on site, everything from being a bricklayer to being a joiner, not particularly good joiner, but doing all those jobs that needed to be done. And it's quite important, I think, in any business that you're involved in, is that you know the nuts and bolts, because people can't pull the wool over your eyes. You understand your business, and all you guys here today that are up for awards this evening, you know, you'll understand every bit of your business, and that's such an important part of it. But gradually, as your business grows, you need to start to step back from your business and look at your business as an entity. You understand it now. Now you want to start to grow your business. And a lot of people will be at that stage with their companies at the moment. So you've started your business, you understand it, you understand your market, and then you're able to start to grow your business. And it's very hard sometimes to stand back from your business. I'm very lucky in that I've got a good team of people around me, and my brother working very much hands-on within our construction business. So as we started to transition from renovating old buildings into building new buildings and buying land and putting up multiple houses on larger developments, then I was able to take a little bit more of a stand back strategic position. So we raced through the 1990s. We've come through a housing crash at the beginning of the 1990s, where we've seen not inflation, but interest rates race up to 15%. I think at one point they hit 18%. So the housing market is very cyclical. So we're in a risk sector, but we managed to fight our way through that. And as we go through the 90s, a word that I'd really not heard before came into my vocabulary, and that word was sustainability. And so I started to understand the impact that building houses and the impact that our businesses have on the sustainability of the environment, the social sustainability of the communities where we build, and also keeping a very keen eye on the economic sustainability of the business, because if a business isn't economically sustainable, it might deliver lots of wonderful things, then that business won't last for very long. So quite an important concept for me to start to understand. So I bought a piece of land at Collingham. We got planning for, I think, about 25 houses on the site, and we really decided to push the boundaries, do something very, very different, something that we hadn't done before. So we introduced new technologies. We built the houses to a standard that was 3 times what was required through the building regulations. We put solar panels on the houses. We put rainwater harvesting systems into the houses. We marketed the houses in a completely different way, something that no other developer had done commercially before. And that was a great learning curve for me. And alongside that came quite a lot of publicity in terms of there's a developer here that's actually doing something different. Most developers were building down to the minimum standard, but we were trying to do something that was going to take our product to a higher level. So my next challenge in business was perhaps a little bit of a crazy one, but I decided to get involved in football. I invested in Lincoln City Football Club. Lincoln City Football Club was collapsing, just about to go into administration. And myself and two others, including the co-op and another business guy, bought into Lincoln City Football Club. And I was there for 10 years as director and chairman. We turned the club around financially. We didn't get promoted, much to the frustration of the fans, but we were in the playoffs 5 times on the trot, and we cleared down about £1 million worth of debt. And we put a lot of good systems into Lincoln City Football Club that made it a sustainable club, that put it on a really strong footing. And the club has gone on from strength to strength since I left in 2010. Great industry to be involved in. If you want to be in an industry that tests you every day, not just tests you at the end of the year when somebody looks at your accounts, but has thousands of people in the ground that's looking at your product and criticizing your product, never mind what you've done in terms of marketing the game, selling kids for £1 seats, filling the stadium up, and then, hey presto, you've lost 5-1. Everybody's sick as a parrot, and it's all your fault. And you've got to start again the next week. It's a tough industry, but it teaches you, and teaches you hard, and teaches you well. So with a bit more time on my hands, I bought a failing business called Rotatech in Newark. It was a business that was going into administration, and Dave Roberts, who had been my chief exec at Lincoln City, came in with me. The business had 40 really good staff, a great concept, great engineers, but was failing commercially. So we managed to, over a period of time, turn Rotatech into a very successful business. We now employ about 120 staff, and we've got 2 factories, one in Newark, one in Worksop. We're Europe's biggest manufacturer of sailing dinghies, amongst all sorts of other products. So again, another business challenge, a different type of business in terms of taking over a business that's failed, being able to turn that round and grow that business in a different sector. So that's it. That gives you an idea of some of the stuff I've done in business. And what I wanted to do now was to sort of explain how things are possibly going to be in the future. I've never been afraid of change, and that's because I lead the company, and it makes it quite easy for me to change the company, much to the frustration of some of my team. I constantly evolve and make changes to move our business forward. Our CoLab business, which is where we're having this awards ceremony tonight, an amazing digital platform, is our response to the COVID virus. And it's created a massive opportunity for you guys to come on board as early adopters, join as members, and be part of a membership that will spread beyond Newark, beyond the East Midlands, bringing people together and networking you with people from all over the globe. Gusto Homes, I've already talked about, has been our long-time response to climate change. But the reality is that if you think the impact of COVID has changed the world, the impact of the climate crisis will dwarf anything we've experienced so far. If the climate clock wasn't ticking, maybe it wouldn't matter, but it is. And once we pass this threshold, there's no going back, no starting out as normal again. It will be a steady descent into system failure, food scarcity, political chaos and suffering. If we could do anything we want to make the world a better place, I'm sure that each one of us would have dozens of ideas. But let's come down from the clouds and explore the challenges from the real world perspective. Let's assume that all of you listening to this are aware of the issues, and you sort of lobby within your company, you try to do things. Well, that's a good start, but the harsh reality is that in most cases, we're all fighting a losing battle. Your voice is lost in a sea of pro-profit sentiment. At bonus time, most companies reward employees based on increasing profits, not on reducing environmental harm. or building in a new, less harmful business model that has new costs associated with it. I get it. People need jobs. People need to provide for themselves and provide for their families. And you may be even paying off student debt. Ultimately, we're all tied to the system. If you speak out, you might get alienated. This summer, Coca-Cola Europe announced the replacement of plastic for six-packs, you know, the six-packs they do, with a can collar paper packaging solution. Coca-Cola considered this a sustainable and recycling solution that is set to keep more than 18 tons of plastic from ending up in the world's oceans. Now, this might sound impressive, but keep in mind that Coca-Cola is the largest plastic polluter in the world and produces 3 million tons of plastic packaging a year. So while 18 tons might sound like quite a lot, it's actually just a tiny fraction of all the plastic they'll produce. 18 out of 3 million is a reduction of 0.0006%. So framed honestly, as a relative reduction, the efforts of Coca-Cola are inconsequential at best and misleading at worst. Perhaps that is why Coca-Cola spends £4 billion a year on advertising. There's no meaningful regulation on plastic pollution. There's no meaningful regulation on carbon emission, for that matter. Sales come first before societal environmental well-being. According to their longtime Director of Sustainability, Pierre Perez, getting rid of the plastic bottle is a non-starter. It could alienate customers and hit sales. So he sounds far more like a marketing director than a sustainability director. In effect, Coca-Cola are saying that they refuse to change their business model in a way that could dramatically reduce their use of plastic, and they're blaming it on their customers. I suppose if a company doesn't have to pay for the harm they cause, they will have no real moral compass or for societal well-being. Then it makes sense to lobby against meaningful change and resist finding new ways to sell their products. Well, the system is broken. However, think about who created the system. The system was created by humans, which means we have choices. It's time to ditch a system that works for so few at the expense of so many. A system that encourages greed and selfishness with financial windfalls. A system that preys on the weak and treats nature like a slave to be used and discarded. Imagine if we changed the system so that the rewards were determined by one's ability to create societal well-being. Imagine if instead of a system that rewards predatory behaviour against nature, people and animals, the system punished it. Imagine if we had a system that was designed to create health and wellness rather than toxifying people's lives for the benefit of the 0.01%. Companies would still be free to operate in this system without government interference, but the new rules would change their focus. The metrics would be designed to reward companies that enriched society, while those that degraded it would become insolvent and fade away. Imagine how different a company like Amazon would be if this type of system was in place, and how much they could enrich society beyond just selling stuff that arrives at people's houses every day. Government would play a key role in this system. It would help to design and police the rules. It would spend tax dollars with the same goals of societal well-being, which would include supporting workers in this transition, instead of giving money to large corporations that have created most of the harm that we're trying to repair. Gone would be the days where government would set the rules for the benefit of corporate elites and billionaires, but rather the rules would be there to serve ordinary people for the betterment of society. These simple systemic changes would have immediate impacts on millions of lives, not in 20 or 30 years when our fragile ecosystem would be well beyond the tipping point. Those corporations who find it difficult to adapt will fade away, and new companies that create well-being would take their place. This is your opportunity as micro, small, medium-sized businesses, you can change and pivot more easily than these large corporate entities. If you can get your head around what the new world needs, then you'll see new opportunities within your sector. All of our finalists can grow to be large companies, employing more people, generating wealth, and benefiting your communities. So I started off from a very moderate starting position with an old van and a mobile disco. We're not a massive company. We turn over about £30 million a year, but we've grown well over the years, and we've delivered lots of benefits for our community and changed people's lives. That opportunity is there for you. Grab hold of it. Be proud of being a finalist here. Be proud of being a business in Newark. Regardless of whether you pick up an award this evening or not, you're all winners and you've all got the opportunity to go on and be very, very successful. Thank you for listening to me. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'm going to pass over to Melvin, who's going to be far more professional than me at taking you through your awards this evening. Thank you very much.